Hi everyone. Today we are going to evaluate functions. So first we're going to start off with what function notation is. So traditionally, functions are referred to by the letter F, but other letters can be used. So you see here, okay, you could say f of x. So this parenthesis means of. So f of x. G of x. That's how you say it out loud when you read it. H of x, M of a, and then A of t. Okay, so whatever letter's there, it's not a big deal. It's just using a different variable. All right, so let's try evaluating when given an input. So the input we see here from this little diagram is the x value. That's what's being plugged in to this side of the equation. When I plug it in, I'm left with my output or the y value. Okay, so that you want to add that in there. So output or f of x is the same thing as y. All right, so we have our first problem here. It says evaluate it for x equals 6. So I'm going to highlight here and show you what is similar. So 6 and x are equal. All right, I also see an x here. I see an x in here, but that's just a placeholder here on the left side. So I'm not going to highlight that so it won't confuse you. So I can plug in 6 wherever I see a highlighted spot. So I can plug in 6 right here. So I'm writing f of 6 just to tell us and anyone looking at our problem that 6 is the x value that we're plugging in. We call that a placeholder. So I'm plugging in now 6 for that highlighted x part, and then I will evaluate. So this right side, -3 times 6, you get -18 minus 10. All right, if you need to use your calculator, do that. What do you get? Good, you should get -28. -28 is equal to this f of 6. All this is saying is that when the x value is 6, the y value is -28. That's all this final notation is telling you. Okay, so now that we've seen it, let's try a couple more. So now we'll find g of 3 for g of n is equal to -2n plus 3. All right, so g of 3. 3 is in the x spot. Sorry, in this problem it's n. The n spot. All right, so let's highlight. We have 3 and n are equal. So I'm going to plug in 3 where I see those other n's. So I have g of 3 is equal to -2 times 3 plus 3. Okay, all I did was just plug in here and here. The left side, though, it doesn't calculate anything. It's just telling you what n value I'm plugging in. All right, so g of 3 is equal to, what's -2 times 3 is -6 plus 3. So you should get that g of 3 is equal to -3. So again, a reminder, this is my x value, that's my y value. So this answer, if this helps make more sense for you, I can write it in that coordinate form. I always have x comma y. So my x is 3 from here. My y is -3. So this answer is telling us when the x value is 3, the y value is -3. That helps you kind of wrap around or that around your head. All right, same idea now. We just have some fractions. Let's make sure we can do these okay. So we'll go ahead and highlight. Okay, so -4 and x are equal. So I can plug that -4 in for either of these highlighted parts. So j of -4. Okay, so I just plugged into those two. Now I will multiply. So j of -4 stays the same. 1/2 times -4, that's like dividing by 2. So I should get -2 plus 7. All right, what is -2 plus 7? Should be +5. Perfect. Okay. Let's do these last two just so we're good with the fractions. All right, we have, let's highlight first. So t is equal to -1/3. So I'm plugging that -1/3 in here and here. So h of -1/3 equals 6 times -1/3 minus 10. Okay, let's multiply 6 times -1/3. If you're thinking, what? Think of multiplying fractions. Top times top is -6. Bottom times bottom is 3. What's -6 divided by 3? Should get -2. So this part here is equal to -2. All right, so h of -1/3 is equal to, what's -2 minus 10? They're both negative, so it's getting even more negative. So you should get -12. Perfect. All right, and a little bit of challenge at the end here. We see an x squared. Weird. We haven't seen that yet. Let's make sure we know how to work that. So -3 is in, oh geez, let's change this. Change that to an x so that matches. Okay, sorry about that. So m of x. Okay. All right, so that is my highlighted part. So x is also plugged in here. So I have m of -3 is equal to 4. I'll put the -3 in parentheses with the squared. All right, so I have m of -3 is equal to, I'm going to do this part first. Think of PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents. We're going to do that first. So -3 times -3, that's what -3 squared is 9. So I have 4 times 9 plus 5. I'll do this part next. 4 times 9 is 36. Okay, so we should have m of -3 equals 41. And then we're done. Okay, so that was all plugging in inputs. Let's write that on the side so we can summarize what we just did. For every single one of these, so right over here, we plugged in the input value. Sometimes it was x, other times we had different names for it, but we always were plugging in to the right side of this equation, here and here. So the back side now, we're going to do the opposite. We have an output. Okay, so we're plugging in for y and then solving for the x. So it's backwards. Okay, so let me show you how this is going to work. I'm going to rewrite this up here. Okay, so it says given this equation, find a. I'm going to highlight that. I think that is a very important part of this problem. We're finding a, which means we're solving for this part right here. Okay, so all I did was rewrite this equation down below in different colors so I can show you how this is going to work. So W of A is equal to -1. Another way to think of that is WA is the same thing as Y. Okay, so Y equals -1. W of A is also over here. See how they're all in red? All three red parts are equal. So I can switch them out. All right, so I'll add my equal sign back in here. W of A is equal to WA. That's still a true statement. All I did was switch -1 and W of A. So now I have an equation that I can solve. All right, so I will subtract 3. I'll move my numbers over. Okay, so I'm left with A equals -4 divided by -4 is +1. So let's rewrite it so it looks prettier. A equals 1. Then check, did you answer the question? Yes, I did. We found A. A equals this. All right, let's try it again. Let's see how this goes. Again, it's telling you find A. Okay, so that means I'm given W of A, which is the same thing as Y, if that helps you think of it that way. So W of A, all right, all I did was just rewrite the problems here so I can show you my little switcheroo. Okay, W of A is equal to 7. All of these reds are equal. So I'm going to switch. I'll move my 7 here, my W of A here. All right, and now I can solve. So I'm going to add 2, add 2. So I have 9 equals 1/4 A. Those 2's just canceled. Okay, I want to get rid of a fraction. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So 1/4 cancels with 4. I'm left with 4 times 9 is 36 over 1. And I'm not going to write the 1. That's just silly. All right, so I checked. Did I answer the question? A equals 36. It says find A. Yes, I did. Very nice. Okay. Let's try 8, and then we'll skip down to 10. All right, number 8 here. We have d of x is equal to -3x minus 2. Again, find x. So if it says find x, you know what you're doing. This time I'm not going to do my color. Let's see if we can do without it. Okay, so I'm plugging in -5 where I see that d of x is. Okay, so on your paper you can make marks like this if it helps. I'm plugging in -5 over here. All right, so I'll solve then. I'll add 2 to both sides. All right, so -3 divided by -3 gives us x is equal to 1. That matches our statement of finding x, so we know we're good. All right, last part. Let's skip down to 10. We have f of x is equal to 1/2 x plus 2. All right, there's just 2 different ways to write this same question, so I gave you both different ways so we can just be comfortable with those. In both cases, though, it says find x. Okay, so I would highlight that or mark that. Excuse me. Okay, so I have f of x is equal to 2. Okay, I would make those marks. Now I can plug in 2 wherever I see the f of x. So 2 equals 1/2 x plus 2. And then I can solve. Oh my gosh, 0 equals 1/2 x? That's so weird. I'm still going to multiply by my reciprocal, though. So the 2's cancel and the 1's cancel. What's 0 times anything? Good, 0. So 2 over 1 times 0 is equal to 0. X equals 0. Check to make sure we answered the question. We did because it asked us to find x. Okay, so let's summarize what we've been doing here. This x equals 0 is telling us if I were to write my answer as a coordinate point, 0 was my x value, my y value, f of x, is 2. So this point here, 0, 2, would be on this graph. Okay, that would be our solution. When you plug in 0, your output would be 2. So remember, x's are inputs, y's are outputs. Okay, last one then. We have -3 is equal to f of x. I'm still referencing this equation over here. So I'm going to plug in -3 for f of x right here. Okay, so I have -3, and then the right half, I'm just recopying it. 1/2 x plus 2. All right, I will subtract. All right, then I will multiply by the reciprocal. So the 2's and 1's cancel. So now I have top times top. 2 times -5 is -10. The bottom times bottom, 1 times 1 is just 1. I'm not even going to write that then. Okay, so x is equal to -10. What does this mean? Let's write it out as a point. X comma y, my x value that I just found is -10. My y value that they gave me at the start of the problem is -3. So this point here, -10 comma -3 is a solution when the output is -3. So remember, this is our input. You want to write that in, remind yourself, y is our outputs. So on the back side here, we just were given all of the outputs and we went backwards to find the input. We did the opposite on the front side. Okay, there we have it. Today we found both our inputs and outputs of evaluating functions. Good job.